This is my very first experience with a KoiKoi figure. It has been extremely positive so far. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven today with a low budget scale figure review. Yes, I keep going for these low budget figures because they don't cost too much and I get to make more content on YouTube, right? Today I'm exploring another relatively new Chinese brand, and it is also my first time buying a figure from this brand. Like, I'm jumping from one Chinese brand to another. It is mostly because I'm curious as well. I want to know what their quality is like. And this time around, we have this brand called KoiKoi or Love in Japanese or Chinese, right? And this is once again an original character by Kekemotsu, 1/6 scale Shyness bunny Hinata, in a very interesting outfit where she is wearing undergarments underneath, black color, but you have a bright yellow raincoat on the outside. Pretty interesting character design in my opinion. It is pretty unique. I haven't seen this kind of combination before. Yeah. So the colors really pop, you know. The colors are so vibrant. The character is so attractive, that blush on her face, and the body proportions are just right, you know. The body sculpting is beautiful. The oppa is not too big. Things like that. It attracted me. The character design really speaks to me. So this became my first KoiKoi figure, but this isn't their first release. They have released 2 or 3 figures before this, but I did not like the character that much, so I skipped those. This is my first KoiKoi scale figure. The height of this figure at 1/6 scale is 29 centimeters approximately. Mine is like 29.6 over here because I did not plug the figure fully into the base. I left a bit of the metal rod exposed so that I can pull the figure out if I want to a lot more easily. So yeah, the foot peg, the fitting was pretty tight, which is why I did not want to push the figure fully in. And speaking of the box over here, so I was unlucky with this figure in the sense that the box was damaged upon arrival, but being a low budget figure, I suppose I don't feel that bad about it. But this is what the box looks like. It is an ordinary paper box and this is not a strong box. So if the postman is being rough, yeah, these things will take damage very easily. Alright, moving on to the unboxing and assembly of the figure. There's one thing I want to note being mentioned in myfigurecollection.net's database of this figure. The material being used to manufacture this figure is PVC, ABS, which is normal, and iron. What? Like, are they referring to the metal foot pegs over here? Because that is something we see in many scale figures nowadays. But if it is not just the foot peg, are there metal being used in any other parts of the figure? I don't think there are any. Maybe they embedded a metal rod in the leg to prevent leaning. I don't know, but interestingly, they included the material iron in the list of materials being used to make the figure. I'm not sure what is up with that. Maybe I'm just over-interpreting things over there. And this figure was released back in April 2025 for around 7,000 yen. So this is a fairly new figure. Assembly was simple and straightforward. You just plug the figure into the base and that is about it. As for the stability of the figure, well, if I shake the figure, she only wobbles ever so slightly. Because, you know, it is a narrow figure in a way. If you look at the side view, it is narrow. Then yeah, it is going to wobble back and forth if you shake it like forward, backward like that. But if it is sideways, she barely wobbles. So this stability is easily a minimum of 7 out of 10. It is a good stability score over here. Of course, if I plug my figure all the way in, it could be even stronger, even more rigid. So this is not a very accurate test on my part over here. I think the figure is a lot more rigid than that. But yeah, you don't have to worry anything about the stability or the wobbliness of this figure. Now moving on to the sculpting department. This is my favorite part of the figure easily. Oh, the body is beautiful. The abdomen region, the sculpt of the body, the muscle, the tones of the muscle, and then combined with the shading they do for the skin, there is some pink color on the muscle lines over here. It looks beautiful. And if you do proper lighting on the figure on display, the figure looks more detailed than it actually is because of the sculpt on the body being so well executed over there. As for the face, well, original characters is simple. You compare it to the original artwork by the artist and then you'll see how how much resemblance there is. So in that regard, they did a great job this figure, no problems with the face at all. And unlike a few other Chinese brands like Bear Panda or Animaster, there is no second bonus faceplate for you to swap things out over here. Not that you can, because her head is mostly hidden underneath the raincoat. I don't think you can swap out the face that easily with this figure, but I'm fine with that. Sometimes I feel like some anime figures have too many extra parts. Not like that is a bad thing, it is supposed to be a good thing, but specifically in my case, I'm not the type to swap out parts in my anime figures every week or two, just to enjoy looking at the figure a little bit differently, you know? Because the more frequently you do part swapping on any anime figure, the higher the risk of you accidentally breaking something, and also the higher risk of introducing paint transfer, because all these parts, when you unplug and then plug it back in, repeat that a few times, there is friction, and then yeah, you might introduce unwanted scratches or paint transfers. So the overall sculpt for this figure, it is not like this figure is perfect, you know. There is one small flaw on the back of the figure over here. Fortunately on the back, there is some unevenness with the surface on her raincoat right here, the one I circled over there. This kind of imperfection comes from the injection molding process of the material of the plastic, and they are supposed to clean it up using sandpaper and maybe some putty if needed, but somehow they overlooked this by accident, I suppose. This is not something you see on every copy of the figure, just that specifically in mine there is a small imperfection on the back of the figure over here. Other than that, no ugly gaps, no seam lines, no glue leaking out or stuff like that. All of the parts appear to fit properly, so the sculpt score I can give for this figure is around 7 out of 10, yeah, which is a pretty good score for a low budget figure. My expectations and my scoring is very different between low budget figures and higher end scale figures. Higher end scale figures I will scrutinize a lot more. Moving on to the paint work, so that black lingerie, that black bikini over there is not going to give you much detail, but at least it is a shiny glossy black which looks really attractive. And there is plenty of shading on her skin itself, on the abdomen, on the thighs, on the face, everywhere. You can see a slight pink color tinge. The pink color they use to detail the skin in terms of the muscle lines, so it is nicely done over here. But this level of detailing is pretty common by now, even in lower budget scale figures by almost every Chinese brand. And then on this raincoat over here, I'll just call it a raincoat, right? Bright saturated yellow with a lot of amber orange being used for detailing and shading. So if you see a fold on the raincoat over here, a fold like this on the sleeves, then you'll see orange being added, amber orange, which is very nice. And as for the white color stripes over here on her sleeve over here, at least it is only 2 stripes, not 3, otherwise it might be mistaken as an Adidas. Everything is clean and neat. No major errors with decal placement or paint work. No paint bleeding, no paint transfer. But in a figure like this, right, where there is not much intricate details, you won't see paint transfer. That is usually the case. Unlike the Reverse Studio Bunny Girl figure that I reviewed at least a week ago, that one was hand painted, but in this Hinata figure, it looks like this white color stripe is a decal over here. So they look exceptionally neat. Like they look perfectly even. Yeah, that is decal. Anyways, decal or paint, the execution is good. I have no complaints about that. And finally, you do get a very nice pair of real fabric stockings. They look very nice on this figure because they are, you know, thigh level, not the entire leg. So they look a bit more detailed than usual. And for the stitching line behind the legs over here, it is a case-by-case basis. Some figures, their stitching lines, they tend to look quite messy or unrefined. They are not very nice to look at. But for this figure, it is very neat. The stitching line is very refined and it makes the figure looks a bit more detailed. It is like a part of the design of the outfit in a way. So no complaints. Fantastic looking stockings over here. One of the best I've seen in terms of the implementation in a low budget scale figure. And lastly, regarding the base, it looks a bit more expensive than it actually is, simply because the base is translucent, or rather completely transparent in this case. Just that the color, while being nicely matched with a raincoat, it reminds me of Peace quite a bit. And that decal in front is a nice touch, just to make sure that the figure's base does not look too plain or simple. So this is perfectly acceptable for a low budget figure's base, not to mention a pair of really strong metal foot pegs over there supporting the figure. So this is a very high scoring base. The paintwork for this figure earlier, I will give it a 7 out of 10 as well. And the base over here, this is also 7.5 out of 10. So overall, this is a very well-balanced figure in terms of quality control, sculpting, and paintwork. There are barely anything to complain about, not to mention the character design is very attractive, other than for that one mold defect, a very small one in fact, at the rear of the figure in my copy over here. So my conclusion is simple. As long as you love the character design, this is worth picking up and adding to your collection. In fact, the color of this figure, bright yellow, it is going to catch a lot of attention when you put her alongside any other figures in your collection. It may not be the most expensive scale figure, it is not the most detailed scale figure, but because of the colors alone, the color contrast over here, it is going to attract quite a bit of attention. I'm looking forward to buying more figures from this brand as long as the character design is something I like, of course. Until then, if you found this review helpful or informative, please do give this video a like. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this. I publish new content on this channel almost every week, in fact, and help this channel grow. Until then, thanks for watching and I shall see you guys soon. Goodbye.